Welcome to this week's episode of Talk of the Town. My name is Philip Swiskett, and I am back with my good friend and co-host, Dr. Kenneth Harper from Vein Specialist of the South. Now, if you have questions about your veins, give my friends at Vein Specialist of the South a call, and they can get you the answers that you deserve. Also, if you don't have time for an appointment, you can actually go to virtualvein.com, answer 6 easy questions, and a provider will be back in touch with you. Again, it's virtualvein.com. If you're one of our brand new viewers on 13 WMAZ, one, thanks so much for joining us. But two, here's what you can expect week in and week out. A conversation between me, Dr. Harper, and someone in the community that's making a difference. And we're here today with Steve Daugherty, CEO of Piedmont Macon Medical Center and Piedmont Macon North Hospital. Steve, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Steve, I'd like to start with, tell us a little bit about how you got to Macon and from the get-go, all right?
Yeah, so I worked for HCA Healthcare, a big for-profit health system for 33 years. And so I moved around a lot with them, mostly in Florida, but I was working in Tampa and they called and they said, we need some help with a couple of hospitals in Macon, Georgia. And I said, where's that? But quickly found out and so got up here and really felt like home to me. I originally grew up in rural northeast Oklahoma, so my hometown's like Forsyth.
Okay.
So it was just a comfortable fit for me, and I really felt like I'd come home when I made it here.
What year was that call you got?
That was June of 2014.
Okay. So when you got here, what were your first impressions about coming to Macon and the hospital and the healthcare?
Well, I knew the hospitals had been here a long time, and in fact, Dr. Frist, who founded HCA, was part of the impetus behind what used to be Coliseum Medical Center, what we now call Piedmont Macon Medical Center. So long time serving the community, and a nice sized community, very welcoming to me. I was fortunate to have a Maconite on my staff, Robin Parker. And I said, Robin, what do I need to know to be successful in Macon? And she said, this is a community, and I need you to get engaged in the community. So really from the very start, I knew if I was going to be successful as the CEO of these two hospitals that I needed to get plugged into Macon. And fortunately, I got a big embrace when I did that.
So it was a good day for you and for us. People may know Piedmont is a new name for Macon. It's not a new name for Georgia in healthcare, but I remember when I went into private practice in 1984, my first office was at Macon Northside Hospital, and it had just opened. Tell us a little bit about the history of the facilities a little bit, and then obviously we're going to be talking about the impact of Piedmont in healthcare here. But
so what was Coliseum Medical Centers? I think it was Coliseum Park when it was originally built. And really it was a physician movement to get this hospital built, but quickly Dr. Frist with HCA got involved in that. And so this hospital's been here for over 50 years. And you spoke about what used to be Coliseum Northside, we now call Piedmont North Hospital. Has been through multiple changes from the charter medical days, so several iterations, but HCA eventually acquired that hospital, and when I came, was already operating both hospitals, and since that time we've really started to operate it more like a health system where it's 2 campuses, but we move people and services around depending on where we think that need best fits.
People are interested in the quality of healthcare, and I know that Piedmont has initiatives for that to take place, and you already recognize in many areas for that here in the local hospitals. Share a little bit about the vision for Piedmont and what's already been happening in Macon.
Yeah, let me share a little bit of the history because I think that plays into what we're doing today. Piedmont was founded in 1905 in Atlanta, and it was founded by 2 physicians. So they were really concerned about the quality of care that their patients were receiving. And that's really carried through the DNA as Piedmont has gone from one singular hospital to now 19 acute care hospitals and another 3 freestanding rehab centers. Quality is at the forefront of everything we do. And in fact, the first time I met with Kevin Brown, he was quick to remind me that quality, safety, and service, QSS.
Now, who is Kevin?
Kevin Brown is the CEO for Piedmont Healthcare, of all the entities that we have in the state of Georgia. And so quick to remind me that we're about quality, safety, and service. If we're successful at that, the rest will follow. Kind of counter to a lot of businesses that focus on the finances. Not that we don't still have to keep our eye on that, but when you provide high quality care, people feel safe with a high level of service, the business comes to you. You don't have to go chase it.
What are some of the quality recognitions the hospitals have received recently? I remember seeing something about that. Do you want to share with the viewers about that?
Yeah, we've the Leapfrog Group has recognized Piedmont Macon Medical Center for 10 consecutive periods and Piedmont Macon North Hospital for 6 consecutive periods as a A-grade hospital, their top grade. And so we're very proud of that. That's an independent group that collects publicly reported data and measures it against what they think is important, and they grade us. And we're happy to continue to maintain that A. More recently, Piedmont Macon North Hospital was recognized by the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid, CMS, as a 5-star hospital. Wow. So the very highest grade you can get for quality and safety from CMS.
So when you're at the top of the heap there, where you got to go from there? What are the goals?
Well, you know what we say within the walls of the hospital is getting there is hard, staying there is harder. Leapfrog Group and CMS continue to raise the bar. New things get brought to light and new standards that we need to meet. So it's something that you have to work at every single day, and we have to keep everybody focused.
So the 3 touch points that you mentioned are
quality, safety, and service.
Okay, that's Piedmont, right?
That's Piedmont.
I know that there's strategic plans for growth and development and making changes in the Middle Georgia region as far as Piedmont's concerned. Could you share some of those that the folks might be interested in knowing about?
Sure. As Piedmont has grown, and I take you back to some of the other communities, they built a brand new hospital in Noonan, in Coweta County. So they've got a history of when they come into a new market to make some significant investments. We've already been approved for a multi-million-dollar imaging upgrade here, new MRI, CT, electrophysiology, and cardiac cath labs.
Right.
Maybe one of the first things that people saw were 2 urgent cares, one on Ingleside Drive and one on Zebulon, and I would tell you those are 2 of many that we have planned. But one of the important things to Piedmont Healthcare is access to care. And I know a lot of people know it after they visit it, but the ER is the most expensive place to receive care. So for us, that continuum of the best place and where we want people to focus is getting primary care. That keeps you out of the hospital or can help keep you out. So primary care is a really important service line for Piedmont Healthcare, including Piedmont Macon. The urgent cares kind of fill that intermediate level. I'm not having chest pain, or I don't think I'm having a stroke. Maybe I twisted my ankle or I got a little sore throat. Urgent care, on the weekend is great. Our urgent cares are open 365 days a year from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. So if you're working or even if it's a holiday, we're happy to care for you there. And then we acquired a very successful business that a lot of people in Macon know, Macon Occupational Medicine. And we were happy to have the opportunity to get a chance to obtain that and add it to our portfolio here. But Piedmont has really come in with guns blazing, if you will, and helping us expand how we provide care to this community.
Now, we talked a little bit earlier about this, but one of the unique things I think that happened when Piedmont came in, you had been the CEO and hospital administrator for the previous organization that owned the place, and they chose to keep you, which was a smart move. But That doesn't happen very often, does it?
Well, it's not common,
Right.
and in fact, I found out about the potential acquisition of these two hospitals 8 months before the acquisition actually took place. So, as you can imagine, I was a little apprehensive about what that meant. I thought most likely it meant that I would move with my previous employer and continue my career there, which I'd been with for 33 years. But Kevin Brown and Mike Mandel, the two top executives, came and talked to me and said, we'd like you to stay. And I was like, wow, okay. Now I have a decision. Do I stay or do I go? And, I told people, my wife and I, this was the longest we had ever been in a community in my career. About every 4 or 5 years, I got moved to another place. And so first time we built some really strong friendships, really invested in the community. And so I say, first we chose Macon and then we chose Piedmont. That's kind of how we talked through that decision. And I felt like I'm at a stage in my career where I'd like to finish something that I started, and I hope I'll be able to do that here.
Steve, we've got a few more questions for you, but first, a quick word from our sponsor.
I'm a 37-year-old mom and athletic trainer. After pregnancies, I developed embarrassing varicose veins and lost confidence in my appearance. Then I called Vein Specialists of the South. I loved the caring staff, learned a lot about the severity of my legs, and the procedures had minimal downtime. What a wonderful place. Months later, I was back at the beach again with 2 pretty legs and newly gained confidence. If it's time for your legs, call Vein Specialists of the South today.
Steve, you and I see each other around at a lot of events supporting Macon, a lot of charity things. And tell me personally why you do that, and then corporately, the corporate philosophy about promoting the needs of the community on the lines of charitable things.
Well, personally, I live here, and I want Macon to be a nice place, not only for myself to live, but for other people that I recruit here. I, like you, don't always like to just hear the negative things, and so the only way to change that is to get involved and make sure that I can promote Macon when people are talking to me. Somebody said, Macon is not a place people go to vacation, so they don't learn about it. And in fact, before I moved here, I didn't know much about Macon, but through those community engagements, I was at the Arts and Science Museum in North Macon and got introduced to Chris Blake, who had been here not much longer than me, and we've now had a lasting friendship for these 12 years. I met Carla Redding at the terminal station at an event, and have become really close friends with that family and a part of their foundation board that's making some big changes downtown. So that's important for me on a personal side, is investing myself in the community I live. On the professional side, we depend on so many of the entities, the United Way, Daybreak, Family Counseling Center, Mercer, Middle Georgia State. Those are really key strategic partners for me, and I hope they would say the same thing about our hospitals as we continue to make Macon a better place to provide healthcare, education, and a cultural experience.
So when you think back on some of those concerts or some of the things you've gone to, are there any that really stick in your mind that they're like some of the pinnacles of those?
Well, certainly you can't live in Macon and not know about the Allman Brothers. And so I was fortunate to attend the last concert that Greg Allman played here before he passed. In fact, we had tickets to the next time, but we all know he didn't make that. So that was an important one. But I also think, I'm not sure it's on camera, but the 75th birthday celebration for one of Macon's most famous musicians, Otis Redding, and really seeing what his family has done to continue his legacy. He had dreams of starting Capricorn Records, which he didn't get to, but that went on with the Waldens, and his wife Zelma continued that legacy, and now we provide these great music camps for kids every summer. And so, for me, I love music. If you come to my house, I probably have about 800 vinyl records and play those periodically. But there's so much musical history here. So, there's almost every weekend, if you want, you can find great music, local musicians, and world class folks. The Macon Mercer Symphony is another favorite for my wife and I, and something that we support. And I think that's another part of the music in this town that needs to be supported.
Steve, when people heard that some outside entity was coming to take over the hospitals, there was a little bit of concern, but that was unfounded. And for the benefit of the community, tell us more about Piedmont Healthcare and why it exists and what the difference is going to make here.
Well, thanks, Ken. Yes, I got a lot of concern. When they said Piedmont's coming, that meant Atlanta is invading Macon, and
we're going to take all of the good patients up to Atlanta, right, and that kind of thing.
And really, nothing farther from the truth. First of all, a lot of people don't know Piedmont Healthcare is a not-for-profit health system. So that's a big change from the HCA who owned us. So we're a not-for-profit health system. We're the largest health system in Georgia, and we employ more Georgians in Georgia than any other employer, including Home Depot.
You got that number? How many do you employ?
43,000, roughly, plus or minus. So obviously, as we've acquired new entities in both hospitals and urgent cares, that number continues to grow. But 80% of Georgians can be at a Piedmont hospital within 1 hour. So there's not many places that we lack yet. Maybe if you looked at Savannah, maybe south of Valdosta, but who knows? That may be in our future. Kevin Brown, who's the CEO, wants our health system to be a destination for healthcare, meaning no Georgian has to leave Georgia to receive the care that they need. And I think that's a great vision, and we're working hard every day to try to fulfill that vision.
Tell us how the Macon region fits into the overall picture. You shared that it was kind of divided into regions. Tell the folks a little bit about that.
Yeah, so we have our company divided into healthcare hubs. Atlanta is obviously one and kind of the founding hub. We have a hub in Columbus, Georgia, one in Athens, one in Augusta. That's the most recent one, and Macon was the one before that. And so the hub idea is not to send everything to Atlanta. It's within that hub, develop the services that the community needs. And there will always be some things that we don't have enough of to support locally. And those are the things that will go to Piedmont Atlanta Hospital, where we have some more ordinary care, usually around heart transplants or complicated stroke care. But we want to keep it close to home. Okay. And so that's my job, is to develop care close to home, right here in Macon in Middle Georgia.
Steve, what people may not know is you have a residency program system here at the hospital. Share the history behind that, what kind of physicians are training, and the relationship it has with Mercer University School of Medicine.
So to me, one of the best investments made at this hospital since I've been in Macon is starting graduate medical education, training physicians. And there is a shortage of residency training hospitals, and it's quite rare to have a residency program in a community hospital like Piedmont Macon Medical Center.
What you may not realize is hundreds of students graduate from medical school every year and do not have a residency. There are not enough residency programs for the number of people graduating from medical school. So that's why this is real important too.
Absolutely. So big front end investment of about $6 million to get that up and running. But then, of course, you have to convince your medical staff to be part of your faculty. And I will say the Macon medical community has embraced that. We have 4 residencies here: internal medicine, psychiatry, emergency medicine, and then one is called transitional year. So that's physicians that need 1 year before they go on to some other specialty, radiology or dermatology, that require that. So those we only have a year, but psychiatry is a 4-year residency, internal medicine and emergency medicine are 3 years. That's our opportunity to embrace these young physicians and convince them that they should stay. But statistically, we know 60% of residents stay within 100 miles of where they do their training. And so we're betting on that as well as working with the ones that train here to try to get them to stay in Middle Georgia. And we're having some great success. The Mercer relationship is key to that. Dean Sumner is adamant about not only training Georgia residents to become Georgia doctors, but also in rural communities as well that surround Macon. And that's going to be important in the long term. The Nathan Deal Scholarship program that they have set up there helps that. So we've now had our programs here for 6 years. And this year, it was a noticeable difference in the residents coming into our programs that they are Georgia residents. Right. So that took a little bit of time, but we're very proud of being able to provide that needed training, and again, hopefully build the medical community here in Middle Georgia.
Well, thank you on behalf of Middle Georgia for that initiative, and we look forward to see the benefits of that for generations to come. So that's great. We survived the COVID years, but it wasn't easy, right?
It certainly wasn't.
And so what were discuss some of the staffing issues that you experience now, and particularly nursing shortages and burnout. How is the hospital impacting that? How are you reacting and helping in that endeavor?
Well, we talked about investments earlier, but one of the big investments that Piedmont has made is in recruitment and retention, and something that's at the top now. You know, COVID sped up what we knew was already going to happen. We have an aging workforce, especially in nursing, and so what COVID did was for some of those people that were at or near the end of their career said, hey, enough, I can't do this anymore. So we saw a lot of early retirement. And then, you know, I guess you could say, unfortunately, COVID popped up in pockets around the country before it became more widespread. So there were acute shortages in San Jose, California, and New York, big cities where it spread much faster. And so they were trying to get staff, and this kind of travel nurse business took a dramatic turn.
Right, it just exploded, didn't it?
And the salaries they offered were, you know, irresistible. And so we saw an exodus of staff going to those travel contracts. And, you know, I understand that, but that then left a local void when COVID hit our area. And so it was a very stressful time. And we operated under conditions which, you know, if you ever watch the old show MASH, that's kind of what it felt like some days. We had staff shortages, we had supply shortages, and we did things, we had to do things, as many hospitals did, that were kind of counter to what we try to do all the time. Never in my career, now almost 40 years, did I think I would have to turn an anesthesia machine into a respirator for a patient. But we had to be that innovative during that time. Now, out of the recovery, it's been slow to come back. Along with everybody else, there's been dramatic rises in salaries, but we've still been reliant on contract labor. In fact, the Piedmont Health System went from spending $30 million a year on contract staff to spending almost $400 million a year. That's not a sustainable.
So what's the answer, and what do you see for Macon, Middle Georgia, for meeting that need?
So partnering with Central Georgia Tech, Middle Georgia State University, Gordon College, those people that are producing new nurses. We set up a nurse residency to support novice nurses coming in. That they get their initial orientation, but they stay in a residency program for 12 months to kind of nurture them. We're doing some more innovative things. This month, we're starting virtual nursing care. which we think will help us retain and attract new nurses.
So what does that look like?
So virtual nursing is what it sounds like. There is a nurse in some other location in the patient's room. There's a camera and a video screen, and that virtual nurse will be able to come in. I'll call it a doorbell. We'll tell patients they'll have access to that virtual nurse with a doorbell. The virtual nurse will have access to them. And
So they're patients at home.
no, the patient's here. The nurse is somewhere else. So what that allows us to do is, one, extend careers, because those nurses at the end of the career that physically maybe just can't do it can be sitting at a desk and provide some of the care that patients need. And when I say care, it's not the hands-on care, it's medication reconciliation and paperwork for admission and discharge. So one, we take that burden off of the physical nurse that gives them more time to spend with the patient. So we think it's going to be transformational. We've talked to several other hospitals and health systems that have gone there, and so I think it's going to be a positive. We are one of 3 pilots in the Piedmont system to have that.
Yeah, we're seeing more of that just in private practice of medicine with virtual visits and those kind of things that were rare or before COVID than they were during and a lot of people have come to enjoy that. If they live 70 miles away, they can have the visit and maybe not have to drive in.
Yeah.
Some things that have to come in, but other things can be handled that way. So innovation, I think, is part of it.
Flexible.
Education.
We've got to be more
Right.
flexible,
And the workforce for nurses, trying to promote that.
And it's not just nurses. It's respiratory therapists.
Yeah, right.
It's imaging technologists. So it really runs the gamut. We talk about nurses a lot because it's the largest part of the workforce, but we've got shortages in almost every area. We're overcoming that, I'm happy to say. And, our plan by the end of November is to have no contract labor under our roof. Okay. They're great to have them, but we say they're not owners, they're renters. Okay. And so we want owners in our hospital that embrace quality, safety, and service and are going to be here for the long haul and take care of their neighbors.
Good to know you have a plan and you're working it and you're nearing the end of that era.
Well, Steve, thanks so much for this conversation. It's been very informative and we really do appreciate it. And thank you guys for tuning in this week. And if you want to see where Dr. Harper and I will show up next, you never know where that might be, but it will be here on 13 WMAZ at 6:30 a.m. every Saturday morning.
I'm a 36-year-old high school librarian, mother of 2 who enjoys coaching tennis. But I had tired and aching legs, not realizing it could be a problem with my veins and could be treated. Until I called Vein Specialists of the South, the VSS team made sure I was comfortable from my office visits to my treatments. What an amazing experience. Now my legs look better, feel lighter, and I can keep up with my busy lifestyle. If you want 5-star vein care, I encourage you to call Vein Specialists of the South today.